Hello, everybody in the chess world. So today we're going to see a subject that I wanted to check, like from some months ago, which is the bayonet attack. So what is that, the bayonet attack? Well, it's quite known, and normally it will happen out of a King's Indian. So white plays short castles, and black tries to throw every pawn they have, like F, G, and H pawns, on their face. So I'm gonna show you like an entire game that I play with the white pieces, but just for anyone who doesn't know what the bayonet attack is, I'll spoil just the position from move 16. So we'll see a position like this, something like this. And this is actually what happened in the game. But you can see that white has castle short, and black started with G5, and then they throw H5. This is a classical thing. So let us go back to initial. I want to show you how to get there. We'll get there really quickly, and then I want to show you, explain some of the characteristics. So this was a tournament game in which I was white. I played D4. We played this King's Indian defense. I played this anti-Grunfeld system that I really like. And I played this sandwich variation in which pretty quickly we got here. This is classical, okay. After we see that the center is closed. Well, black just moves out the knight just to throw a5 and try to get the activity there. So play queen on d2. My opponent went f5. Knight bc3 and f4. This is what is going to be the start of a future bayonet attack. Because black is closing up not only the center but the king side. And yes, the only drawback for them is that, well, this bishop now looks kind of ridiculous, right? It's like what we call it, like a fat pawn, But they are winning space, and they will try to attack me, well, white in this case, myself, when I play short castles with the space, just throwing the pawns. This is why it's called the bayonet. This like a spearhead, So really quickly, some details before getting into the bayonet attack position. Here, my opponent plays c5. He's just even closing up, trying to close up the queen side. Since he knows that his action is going to go on the king side, well, he says, I'll strategically try to close down the queen side, so I'll have more like a free hand to attack on the other side. So look at that, the way the game continued, because I went knight on c1, so yeah, on the one hand, I'm freeing the possibility of developing this bishop. I need development, but also the destiny for this knight is c3, from which I'll be kind of trying to go for b4. He went knight on e6, and I went bishop on e2 and knight 8 on c7. So now it looks like he might try to go for a6, rook b8, and b5. This will be like something that might be hinted because of this knight on c7. However, well, I have the knight on c3 and bishop, so I'm controlling b5. He's really far away from playing that. So what did I do? Well, I just play a3. Actually, I want to play b4 before he gets to play the move b5. So he went a5 just to prevent that. This is quite logical. My rook on e1 is still hanging, so yeah, and against any b4 he will take. I cannot recapture because of this influence in here. I mean, this is quite logical. So I went for b3 because I want to prevent the possibility of a4, and this will be the thing. He played knight on a6 and he offered a draw, and this is quite interesting because we're really close to getting to the bayonet attack position, but it's quite interesting that he offered a draw in here because on the one hand he was like 150 points less than myself, so a draw will be a good result for him and he will win some rating. Now, of course, I rejected the draw, but initially we might argue that, well, black has a case. Just to say, well, this might be a draw, or maybe I'm even better. Because, well, black has successfully, made sure that b4 by white will be at least delayed. Not necessarily for prevented, but it's true, he has a lot of, pieces now, a lot of things just preventing me from playing a possible b4. Meanwhile, okay, I still have my king in the center, but, as soon as I play short castles, he is going to go for the bayonet attack. So, interesting, right? Okay, look at this, because I actually, to keep going, I calculated a little bit, because I was also kind of looking slightly grim, because of, all of what I just explained. But okay, first of all, knight on d3. Again, I will need another piece to play b4. He waited, bishop on d7. But to play b4, I need to protect this rook. And of course, I need to develop my pieces. So finally, I won castles. I went with the move short castles. Well, immediately he reacted with g5, the bayonet attack. I had from the position where he offered a draw, rook fb1, h5, and b4. So from this position on knight on a6, I had reached to this position because these are all natural moves. So now is the time to actually specifically talk about the bayonet attack. So there was this video of Hikaru Nakamura where he was talking about the bayonet attack, and I like what he said. He said that, you know, of course, white is trying to activate on the queen side, and black is trying to do, you know, activity on the king side. So a lot of times when you put these positions for the engines, as he said, the engines are quite often given like all the time +2, +3 for white. But as soon as something changes, they switch to -7, you know, like +7 for black. So it's really funny. It's one of the few kind of positions where we humans understand it better than the engines. And we can even explain this in the most caveman, you know, way, like this typical phrase, like saying, yeah, okay, you get it on the queen side. White is gaining actually earlier to getting some kind of result on the queen side. So black will get a little late on the king side. But yeah, you lead all of my pieces on the queen side, but I'm gonna eat your king, you know, on the other side of the board. So again, it's like such a caveman argument, but it's quite right. So I mean, the purpose of chess, do not forget about it. It's just you gotta give checkmate to the king. So again, it's like always playing on the edge, and I think that this is why, well, you shouldn't trust the engines. I mean, quite often they'll tell you that white is winning, white is winning, white is winning, white is winning. They're getting on the queen side there. The invasion is inevitable. Well, but as soon as a little detail changes, not even necessarily relying on a possible mistake by white, just some active move by black, and black is winning. So, you know, the plan is, again, it's a bayonet attack. Maybe one day they'll play a cool g3, h3, h4, h3. Yes, of course, it's going to take a lot of time for black to prepare that. In the meantime, white is usually quicker on the other side, but I think it's always at least a good decision to try to go for the bayonet attack. However, well, as you can see in this game, I was actually on the other side. You know, I was white, so I was actually having to play against this bayonet attack. So let us see how the game continued. B6 is logical. So I mean, black is trying to hold the queen side by playing b6. So of course I open it up, at least the b file, and I invaded. My opponent played bishop on c8. I went back in g4. This is what black should do. As soon as they get the opportunity, just throw the pawn. Of course, you know, black should actually, you know, pile up some wood, right? Stuff like this. They need a few more pieces to attack. But in the meantime, they're going to win the space as my opponent is doing, just throwing the g-pawn. Well, knight on a4. I need my invasion on the queen side. And look at this. This is a really curious detail because here my opponent played g takes on f3. I think that if you look at this position with an engine, the engine won't change the evaluation that much. The engine is probably going to tell you that white has a clear advantage, and yeah, g takes f3 is not particularly good or bad move. However, again, I think we humans understand this sort of positions much better than the computers. G takes f3 to me is a double question mark move. I mean, after this, now the game is over. And it sounds ridiculous because it's just a normal move. But it's really important in the bayonet attack for black to wait. They should have started with queen on g5. Then, as I said, maybe knight on f6. Sorry, like this, knight on f6. Maybe rook on f6 and then g6 or h6. The idea is to flirt with the possibility as well of playing a good g3 to open up lines. You know, this was very important. Let us say, I don't know, queen g5. Maybe I'm going to need a home for this bishop. If someday a good g3 comes, I mean, okay, this is not possible right away. Let us say I play nothing move. I understand. If you play that, I mean, you're hanging your queen. Yeah, of course, it's totally clear. But you get my point. You have to pile up your pieces and try to prepare a good g3. This is very, very important. It's the only way to create problems in the game after g takes f and bishop takes f3. Yeah, I mean, the G file is semi-open now. For maybe black will try to do something, but now I have a free hand on the queen side. So really, black should always wait. This is the main mistake that my opponent played. After this, I knew I was going to win the game because I have no more trouble. I have nothing to worry about. So, okay, the game is going to be pretty long, but not too much commentary on in the middle, on the way. Look at this, for example, bishop g4 is the way that he played, and just queen on e2. Now I make myself strong on the light squares and make sure that there are no problems over there. Then I can play freely on the other side. Queen on g5, but I double up the rooks. Knight on f6. You can see my opponent is playing all the moves that I was suggesting, but when he had already played g takes on f3. And this is wrong. He should have had a pawn on g4. So rook on b6 came. Okay, my opponent played this a little bit of a fantasy move. Not bad. I cannot take, of course, the knight because I will lose the rook, but just... Well, king on h1. I mean, again, I think there are 1,000 moves here for white. You can check it on an engine. But what I'm doing with this move is now, if at any point black plays bishop takes on f3, well, now I can recapture with the g-pawn and even play along the g-file if I want to. He played knight on d7, but now I exchange both rooks. Well, and bishop on e1. Look at this. I mean, finally now the a-pawn is falling. There's nothing to do. And so it probably wasn't even good to exchange the rooks for my opponent. Okay, the game follow bishop takes. As I said, now I can take it with the g-pawn. What is my opponent left with? Well, this awful bishop and a pawn down in here. So now he changed both rooks. He needed those heavy pieces to attack my king. Now it's really easy. But let us just check the rest of the game. Knight on f6, queen g2, queen on h6. I mean, black has to have some kind of hope of someday attacking my king. Of course, it's not realistic, but okay, I understand why he did not want to exchange queens. But finally, I take this, a5 pawn, knight b7, I went knight b6. Now my knight is invading. Knight on f8, knight on c8, knight on g6. Well, here, I'm sure the best move was knight takes on d6. This was totally possible. And if knight on h4, I guess just queen on h3. But okay, in the game, I was just running a little short on time. I had 30 seconds increment by move, but I wanted to make things simple. I just play queen takes knight, just simplification to get into a winning ending. And well, even here, look at this. I'm so winning that here I made an awful move, bishop on c7. A really clumsy move because with knight on e8, it defends the pawn and kicks out my bishop. But even so, I'm totally winning. So, okay, my opponent is playing just by inertia. He knows that I'm playing with the increment, so he's waiting for me, hoping for me to make some sort of stupid mistake. But okay, he just really, just playing this little march with his king. Okay, it is proactive action, but my king does the same on the other side. With bishop on f6, he stops my king, but now I have my knight. So I'm, again, he marches with the king, I'm marching with my knight. Knight on h4, and now my knight is invading on f5. And if he takes my knight, well, then my king will pass, take the h-pawn, and I'll win with my free h-pawn. So he did the only practical thing he could do. Play like here, winning another tempo. Look at how stupid my dark square bishop is because I was playing such stupid moves, but it's still more than enough to win the game. So, well, he played bishop on the 8. His last hope is to exchange bad bishop for good bishop, but luckily for me, it's too late for him. I allow that, and, well, this little race is not hard to calculate. Again, even with just playing with the increment, 30 seconds. h4, king takes. h5, king d3, h6, c4, h7, c3. I made a queen. And after c2, again, during the game, I remember I thought, I'm sure this is, well, 400% winning. But I And after the check king d2, I imagine there are 1,000 winning moves. But again, just playing with the last seconds, I just made things more simple. Just play queen on each one, because I realized, I calculated that even the last pawn race is easily winning for me. Like king d2, king f7, knight c7, just knight takes on d6, and when he made a queen, I just exchange, and when knight on c4, hitting on e5. And after, I don't know, after king d1, I even play d6. Okay, here he resigned. There's just my d pawn marches and wins really easily. So, I mean, to sum it up, like in the moment that he offered a draw, in here I calculated that up to this position, where I realized that this bayonet attack will be, well, like an inevitable consequence of rejecting that draw. And again, I think even if engines are giving like a clear advantage for white in here, I think any player with the black pieces should be willing to play these sort of positions. But again, do not do as my opponent did. Do not rush taking on f3. This was his main mistake, and why, if you understand how the bayonet positions are played with white as myself, you would have been sure that you will win this game as myself in this position. Because after this, there's almost no more hope. Black should waste, all the times necessary to, as I said, let's say queen on g5, maybe passing the rook, knight on f6, but black should be aiming to someday play a good g3. That's very, very, very important. So again, I think you shouldn't be disencouraged to play the bayonet attack. But again, it's also good to play on the white side of the thing. And really remember, in general terms, if black actually decides to define the situation by playing g takes on f3, then it's over. You have a free hand on the queen side to easily win the game, as I did on this game. So thanks a lot for watching. I will see you next time. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe as usual. So bye-bye.